Who's to blame for your narcissistic partner's selfishness? Am I blaming you for that? Let's clear the air in this video. Hi everyone, Mireille Nicole here, relationship coach, and today I want to address a couple comments that I got on a video I recently posted where I talk about whether or not your partner is actually selfish or if it's a problem in the dynamic that you can address. So I knew I was going to get some pretty interesting comments on that video, so I was prepared for this, and I'm glad I had this opportunity to come back and further that discussion, right? Based on these comments, which are great, in fact, right? They're great conversation starters so that we can really look and dive deep into this topic because it's so important. And I know a lot of women are struggling with this in the relationship or in the dating world, trying to discover, okay, is my man truly selfish? Is he a narcissist? Or is there just something going on here that I can actually take a certain amount of responsibility or action towards? And that leads me into the first comment. So let me read this out for you. I usually won't comment as I think it's the internet and I don't even know them. Who cares? But the blaming women all the time really ain't it. You're saying if women don't get their needs met, we should meet our partner's needs so they will meet ours? Really selfish and weird. Instead of playing these games, maybe find a partner that actually wants to meet your needs because they actually like and understand you. There is so much in this comment, so I'm going to break it down for you, but let's talk about the part about blame. And what I said a bit earlier actually leads into this wonderfully because I wanted to be clear that I'm not blaming women. Obviously, it sounds like I pick on women a lot because I work with women, right? I've been in that position where I've had to take radical responsibility for myself in my love life, and that's what ultimately changed things for me and gave me my happily ever after. And I want the same for other women out there. So I work directly with women, so it might sound, like I said, like I'm picking on women. But I want to invite you to, instead of looking at it as in blame, as if I'm placing blame on you, that I'm actually encouraging you to take responsibility and look at your own role in the relationship dynamic, because that's going to be the most empowering thing you can do for your love life. When we don't see what we can contribute towards the relationship or the betterment of the relationship and changing things in our life in general, right? We get stuck in victim mode. And when we're in victim mode, all these things happen to us and we feel powerless and out of control. Now, obviously, you can't control everything that happens to you in life or in your love life, but you do have control over the step that you take. So let's remove the term blame or putting someone at fault just out of our romantic vocabulary altogether. And let's start looking at what we are responsible for and what we can control. And yes, one of the things that we can control in our love life is to what extent that we meet our partner's needs. Now, there's nuance here because I will often say, you're not responsible for meeting all of your partner's needs, and your partner isn't responsible for meeting all of your needs. But if you're in a loving relationship, if you are really, head over heels with your partner, you're going to want to make sure that every now and then, at least at a minimum, you're meeting some of their needs. And it's actually been said that when adults aren't getting their needs met, they'll often act out or express their emotions in unhealthy ways, whether that's consciously or unconsciously. So this is actually a thing. And I want to invite you to the possibility that maybe it's not weird and selfish that we need to, and I should maybe not say the word need, but by meeting someone else's needs, you get your needs met, because there's this whole concept in life, in the world, in the universe of the law of reciprocity. The more you put out there, the more you give, the more you get in return. And that's no different in your relationship. Have you ever noticed how when you start smiling more to people, people smile more back to you? Have you noticed that when you do good deeds, people start doing good deeds in return to you? It's the whole idea of reciprocity. And you'll see when you start doing this towards your partner, you're going to get a lot more in return. Hey, and if doing good things for other people is a way to get good things done to you, I say that is not a game, or that is a good game to play. Because at the end of the day, everyone wins. And that's what we want in the relationship. We want to both feel fulfilled, respected, and cherished by the other person, and ultimately loved. So obviously your partner has some responsibility in terms of making sure their needs are met, in terms of communicating their needs, in terms of fulfilling them themselves in some instances. But I challenge you to really look into what it is that your partner needs and start really making sure or being intentional about doing more of that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whatever cadence you want to start off with. But you'll see that the more you start doing it, the easier it's going to get. And the more you get your cup filled in return, you're going to be doing that a lot more freely and easily. But one of the questions I get sometimes is, what if your partner doesn't express to you what they need? What if it's not clear? Maybe they don't even know themselves. Maybe they're not not even consciously aware of what makes them happy. Maybe they're not doing personal development and all this inner work that you're doing. Maybe they're not looking into relationship coaching and how to fix things, right? But there are certain universal needs that all people desire and want at the end of the day. So if you're not sure what to do, you can't go wrong by acknowledging your partner, by practicing acceptance and showing appreciation. So start there and let me know how that works out for you. And the other thing I wanted to say about that first comment also is if you feel your partner is being selfish, and this is something I've shared in previous videos, make sure that you're going in there with a team player approach in your communications. Avoid going into conversations with your partner saying, I want this, or can we do this, and making the decisions for him. If you feel like you're in a space where he's always pulling to get his way, there's probably something going on in the dynamic, or he could just be a jerk, right? Obviously, I'm not going to deny that fact, but you really want to take responsibility to really determine that. So I'm always big on, before you label someone, really explore, really use effective relationship and communication tools so that you can determine that accurately. All right, let's look at the second comment. What about very selfish men who are used to women constantly meeting needs and being informed? You're ignoring cultures of deep-seated ignoring women's needs. This is a big one, and that goes well beyond what I was discussing in that video. And for this, all I'm going to say is that to me is a belief that's based on truth. Like, I'm not denying that there's been women's oppression, and I do consider myself a feminist on many levels. But having a belief like that can be a very slippery slope, like I say, because it might impact the way that you show up in your dating life or in your relationship. Having something like that in the back of your mind is going to influence the way that you respond and take in information from your partner, the way you view maybe your potential partners when you're dating. Having that in the back of your mind is going to be very influential in terms of what's happening in your experience. So if you're not content, if you're not satisfied with what you're experiencing in your love life or in your dating life, I highly encourage you to have a good look at your beliefs. And that's not to say that you stop believing that. You can still believe that. But how do you carry that belief or work with that belief without letting it hinder what you're experiencing? So I'm going to give you a bit of like an unrelated example because it's probably my most feminist move in my life. But when I had my son, I was really strong on having a natural home birth. And one of the reasons I wanted a natural home birth was that I believed that going to the hospital and laying on your back and giving birth and getting all these medications was very patriarchal. I do have a belief that the modern healthcare system is very patriarchal, even though we have a lot of amazing women doctors and it's shifted and everything. Some of the thinking is, in my opinion, legacy from that time, right? From that era. And so it was really important to me as a woman and believing in my power as a woman that I would give birth the way I desired to and in a way that felt more natural to me while taking precautions. And that's where the nuance is. And that's the point I want to make here. So even though I have this belief in terms of the system, right, when it came to giving birth and being pregnant and all that, I did not let that stop me. And I did not let that override or overshadow my experience. I took steps with my belief to have a better outcome for myself. So even if I believe that about the system and what was, encouraged by my doctor to do, I still found options to see beyond that and experience something beyond that. So I looked for practitioners who supported home birth. I did my own research online. I immersed myself with wonderful stories about natural home births and just doing it the way that felt good for my body in a safe way, obviously. And I was able to experience what I desired while carrying that belief. I didn't let that belief overshadow or cloud my experience. And that's what I encourage you to do. Also, if you have a belief of this magnitude, it's okay. But at the same time, remember that, maybe not all men are like that. Maybe they were at some point, who knows? But things have evolved. And I'm sure you can probably think of one person or one man out there who's not still acting or living or believing that whole idea of women's needs being oppressed and suppressed. And the more you can bring yourself back to this other possibility that's out there, the more you can start changing your experience. So I hope this makes sense, the two really big takeaways I want to give you from this video is number one, instead of you seeing my videos as me blaming you, they're really here to give you another perspective, a fresh perspective on what might be going on in your relationship or your dating life. One of the comments I get from women who come into my world, into my programs, is they say, wow, that is eye-opening. And I hope these videos are also going to be eye-opening for you. And the second takeaway is if you have this strong belief, right, about men in general, if it's not a positive one, if it's not something that's really leading you towards your happily ever after, I strongly encourage you to really look at that belief. And like I said, you don't ignore it, you don't stop believing it necessarily, but also look at what else is possible. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. As you see, I get back to you, and sometimes I even respond in another video. If you'd like some help in your love life, if you're struggling, if you're not sure what to do next, you've tried couples therapy, nothing has worked, there is a link in the description below where you can get in touch with me. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.